How did you convince someone to come on board with a two-person company?
What helps to know that person?
Okay.
Yeah, we got stuck in this catch-22 situation where, yeah, we know you guys, you do good work, but you have 4 people. How are you going to execute this
And
work?
what's your response?
We're going to invest in people, like we're going to hire good people.
And having them have enough trust to come work for us, sometimes take less money to work for us.
But what we were able to sell, I guess, was you chart your own path here. Like, ceiling's very high for you.
We have a JV that we have established.
We've had mentor-protege.
Mentor-protege. There's a transition that you're going through around your size where you're working in the business and you really need to start working on the business.
Yeah.
So how do you get from here to 200? This is The Build Up, a podcast by Procon Consulting. All right, well, welcome to The Build Up. We have 2 exciting guests for you. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, something that I've been looking forward to. My good friend that I've known for how long? I don't even know how long.
Since 7th or 8th grade.
Oh my gosh, we go
Yeah.
way back. And then Marcus, obviously, I've known you for at least like 15 years or so. But we've done a lot of partnership together. And so without further ado, I thought that maybe we'll start the show by just introducing yourself, your company, and we'll start with you, Marcus.
So I'm Marcus Kim. I'm president of Hana Engineers and Consultants, one of the founding members. So Jeff and I started Hana back in 2014. Real quick, my personal background. I went to Virginia Tech for my master's in geotechnical engineering.
Smart.
I grew up in Colorado, went to CSU for my undergrad, and that's how I ended up in the East Coast, going to Virginia Tech and
Yeah, you came
Blacksburg.
to the better school.
Yeah, I was
Got smarter.
oddly, I was
For sure.
Tell them the story about when you applied.
Oh, how I ended up
how
at
you
Virginia
ended
Tech?
up at Virginia
It's a little
Tech.
embarrassing, but it's one of those just things just work out for a reason. So when I was at Colorado State, one intro class I took was geotechnical engineering, introduction to geotechnical engineering. It's something I've never heard of, didn't know anything about it. It was definitely piqued my interest. So I decided to take some more classes, and my professor at that time said, if this is what you want to do, you definitely want to go and get your master's degree. So he gave me a couple of recommendations, and if you're last minute, I'm like, all right, better apply to I had a rule of 3 thing going on. So I had CSU, Washington, University of Washington, and all right, what was the last one? So I started applying and applied to Virginia Tech. And Virginia Tech invited me out to visit. I really liked it, got accepted. And I went back to my professor. I'm like, hey, I got into Virginia Tech. And he looked at me funny. I'm like, wow, who told you to apply there? I was like, well, you did. Like, no, I told you to apply to Georgia Tech because I know professors there. So not knowing anything about East Coast schools, I ended up, I just remember hearing Virginia Tech. So that's how I ended up at Virginia Tech. Turned out to be a really good program and obviously worked out for me. And that kind of set me on the path to where I am today. And then moved down to Norfolk, Virginia, and work for Army Corps of Engineers.
That's where the two of you guys.
That's where I met Jeff. Yep.
And maybe that's a good segue into the other half of Hana.
Yeah.
And just share about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my background, my childhood was molded by you as a great
I had
friend
a large
and
influence
leader.
on you.
And
positive influence.
any success I have, I really owe it to you.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you. You've heard it straight on the build-up.
That's not how he described you to me, but hey, we'll continue.
This one's being recorded though. That's all that matters.
Yeah. I grew up in Richmond, Virginia. I was a real slacker in high school. Didn't have great grades, so I went to apply to Virginia Tech, and I got waitlisted. I didn't get in, so I ended up going to Radford University. Then I transferred to Tech after 1 year at Radford, and then I enrolled in geology. I didn't want to be, at the time, I thought, I wanted to work outside. I didn't want to be stuck at a desk looking at a computer screen all day, which is what I do now, by the way. But went through the geology program, kind of didn't know what I wanted to do, was interviewing with oil companies, doing like exploration geology, and then met with some professors in the environmental department, and they said, yeah, you could come do your master's with us. We'll give you a graduate assistantship, but we recommend that you take these additional core classes. So that's what I did. So I got the bachelor's in geology and master's in environmental engineering. And then I went out, kind of into the working world, moved out west, worked
Malcolm
for
Perney, right?
Malcolm Perney was my first job. Went from Malcolm Perney to a company called Earth Tech. Both of those companies are now owned by larger firm, or were acquired by larger firms. Malcolm Perney by Arcadis, Earth Tech by AECOM. So big players in our industry. But that's where I got my kind of cut my teeth in the industry, and then ultimately moved back east after living out west for a while. Got a job at the Corps of Engineers in Norfolk.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus and I worked, in the same section, doing geotechnical, environmental, geology, all kinds of different stuff, and we kind of started talking. Didn't really see a real, path to upward mobility there without having to move, which we didn't really want to, move to DC and all of that kind of stuff. So we started talking about starting a company.
But you have that entrepreneurial mindset too.
It's always been in the back of my head. I think even when working in the consulting industry, you always see things that you think you could do better, right? But if you're in such a large organization, you can't change.
You guys were at Virginia Tech at the same time, right? Because I think remember you telling me when you and Mark were talking about this kind of,
watching at the house.
Yeah,
Mark and you guys were roommates at a house. I
have some stories that we can work in.
Yeah, we can do that later.
But so anyway, for me, I've been my whole working career. I've always kind of, up until we started the company, always kind of had that in the back of my head. Always saw things like, this is stupid. Why are we doing things this way? But in a large organization, it's hard to make a change, especially when you're, in a mid-level type position and there's no real clear path to get to a position where you can affect change. So we started to talk and eventually just decided to do it.
Definitely took some convincing from Jeff because, like Jeff was saying at the Army Corps, I had a great time, learned a lot. What we took from Army Corps, what we learned from there, helped us grow our business and just understanding the federal market and federal contracts. But I was looking for more of a stability, and I just got married. My second kid was just born, so
no, I understand.
It's a little scary to think about, but
I go talk to a lot of students, and one of the things that I get asked often was, "Hey, what was it like starting a company right out of school?" And to your point, I told them it was so much easier to do that. I feel like if I had kids and I had more stability in my life, I think it would be harder to make that decision.
Yeah,
but kudos to you.
Yeah, but
for
I
making
think
that.
also kind of convinced myself that I was still young enough that if it didn't work out, I could get another job and wasn't going to be ruined unless we incur a lot of debt.
So let me ask you this, because in that line of thought, I used to think the same thing. Okay, until the next paycheck, until the next contract, I still have the option to get another job. You still, even though you're heading forward, you're kind of still looking back, and you see from a distance, I think I can get back there and start over if I need to.
Safety net, right?
Safety net. So do you still have that feeling now?
No, because I think
And when did that change?
It's hard to say, because I think once you start having employees that you're responsible for, it's not just you anymore, right? And their families. And I think once you start having commitments to projects, and I just haven't had that thought, and I don't know the exact time, but that's not
away.
a thing. It's just now you're just looking forward. How do I get better? And making sure that for the company to be sustainable
you're
and
so
successful, busy, and it just goes fast, and it just happens, and all of a sudden you have 10 employees, 20 employees, whatever, and then now you owe it to them to be like making sure like it'll be selfish of me. I'm like, okay, if this doesn't work out, I'm gonna walk away and I'll be okay. So.
Can we? One thing that I should probably ask is, Hana, give us sort of this like 10,000-foot description of what you do,
Do a
where
little
you're
plug.
located. Yeah, do a little plug.
Want to go?
I'll start.
Yeah, go for it.
You know, just going back to the beginning, my background's environmental contaminant investigation and remediation, some environmental compliance work as well. But so when we first decided to leave, that was really our niche, you know, environmental and geotech. And we had some key prospects out there that kind of helped us, you know, make the decision to leave, to get it off our feet, you know. So I think we went into it knowing that we weren't going to really take a salary for like a year or two, you know. So right off the bat, you know, you're incurring debt. My wife's still working. Your wife was probably still working at the time.
She was working part-time, and then...
So they were really like, you know, supporting us, you know, while we were out there like looking for, you know, jobs. So anyway, you know, we got a couple of key projects. One up here that we got like 2 years after we started was Arlington National Cemetery Southern Expansion.
That's incredible.
Yeah, we are the designers of record on that for the geotech and environmental. So that was a huge, high-profile project that we got kind of early on in the company. And then from then, I always knew that we wanted to do a little bit of what you guys do, the construction management. So we were small. We were so busy with environmental and geotech that we didn't do much of that in the beginning. But you know, last, I would say 5-6 years, we've really kind of grown into that as well. So right now we're, you know, we went from 2, we're up to over 70 employees now. We still do the environmental and geotech. And we do a lot of construction management, construction technology, the PMIS piece of that you guys do as well.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that, our JVs that we've established.
Yeah,
but that's great.
And then a few years ago, we started the drilling operation too, because we do a lot of site investigation work on both the geotech
Talk about the latest
and
drilling
environmental
that you just purchased.
Yeah.
A beast.
Well, you have a name?
Cinnamon? We need to change the name.
Don't say that.
We can cut that out, but
Cut that.
no, we did not have a name for the rig.
So we started it because we do a lot of site investigation work. We were having really hard time getting drillers to do the work, to get them on the schedule. You know, we were looking at lead times of like 6 months, you know, but meanwhile, we were also subbing out a large amount of drilling work. So, we knew a driller that became available to help us start it, and then we just kind of jumped right in and bought one rig, and we expanded that. Now we have 3 rotary rigs, and then we have a really big sonic rig that, you know, sonic technology is really the state of the art in drilling these days.
The sonic head is still the largest Eichelkamp makes, or one of the largest.
Yeah, it's got, you know, when in sonic drilling, it's all about the drilling head. So this is the largest drilling head that it was when we bought it. I don't know if there's some that are larger now, but it's the largest head, which translates into power. You know, you can go deeper, faster.
For a lot of the people that may not know, they may understand traditional drilling, but describe the sonic drilling process.
So it's called rotosonic. So it basically it's a high frequency method where it really is it's slowly rotating, but it's really very minute vibrations that are really driving that head down, and it's really an art. So a good sonic driller is very hard to find because there's really an art to it. It's more art than science. You learn how to feel the ground pressures depending on what type of geology you're in. You know exactly how fast to run the head, how much pressure to put on it. So these guys that do it for a living are really amazing at what they do.
So give me a scenario why someone would go for a sonic drill versus a traditional boring.
So on the environmental side, Jeff can speak to that more, but on the geotech side, so one of the the advantage of sonic drilling is self-casing, essentially. So you're going as you're casing. So Army Corps, about, I don't know, a few years ago, they came up with this new guidance for geotechnical investigation on earthen dams.
Mm-hmm.
So the dam that's made out of earth, like a clay core and like a rock, and you'll see that on reservoirs. So the traditional drilling, rotary drilling, you like use augers to go through, and then I think it gets pretty limited because if you have a large diameter like torque meters and like it's harder to drill. So that's one method. The other method is mud rotary drilling. So it's like a tri-roller bit where it'll shoot out like a drilling fluid as you drill, and that's how you keep the hole open. Like you circulate the mud. That is like least preferred method on earthen dams because it could potentially create what you call hydrofracturing, like sideways if you have too much pressure. So the new guidance calls out like sonic drilling as one of the preferred method to the geotech investigation on those type. And, sometimes it's just more powerful and faster. Give you a full recovery of core samples too. Like a lot of geotech drilling, you take samples every 5-foot increments. So those are the advantages for the geotech side. The environmental, I'm sure this got more.
Yeah, there's several advantages. Now, there's still a place for, rotary drilling, hollow stem auger,
And you guys have some of that,
mud.
too.
We have all of it, but some advantages for sonic are you can go through differing geologies and not really have it impact your drilling operation. So you can go from hard formation to soft. You have a 4-inch core barrel where you get nice. One advantage is if you're looking to log holes, which we often have to do in great detail, you get a nice 4-inch core that goes down, and then you have an outer casing that goes over that 4-inch, and that keeps the hole open. So you don't have to deal with hole collapse and things like that. So there's a lot of advantages, but there's a lot more capital investment.
I'm interested how you start from 2 people to how you just described it. We are doing, PMIS, we're doing construction management, we're doing the environmental work, geotech work, and drilling. Like, what was that evolution like?
Yeah.
How would you describe that?
I think in the beginning, like it was when it was just Jeff and me, it was like it's more survival mode, and we did have a couple of prospects, good prospects, and so it was Arlington National Cemetery. One was
What was that project? That was your first project?
no AWI, the Superfund project in Portsmouth.
Atlantic Wood.
So it's a EPA Superfund cleanup site. So the history there was, when we started talking about it and decided to leave, it wasn't just like let's just get out of there and see what's out there.
But I feel like it was like almost a year and a half of conversation because we spoke to you.
Well, we were doing all the fun stuff when we were still getting paid full salary. We were coming up with a name and all the fun stuff, trying to get that set up. So when the AWI EPA job, I was on that project since 2009, working at the Army Corps, representing, working as a technical engineer. And when I left, it created, there was a need for me to get back involved. So I was fortunate to get involved as Hana under different under a subcontract to the designer. So that put me on that job full time. That's why I couldn't move to Richmond right away. When we left Army Corps, Jeff moved up to Richmond soon after, but I stayed back because
You were still on a project.
I was going to the job site every day. I was going to the trailer every day, working.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
There's a point where you're billable, 100% billable, to then you start hiring an employee.
Right.
Then you have to figure out how you can manage everything.
Right.
I think the foundation, what we going into this, we always talked about quality, even before we started the company. And one of the things we would see is a lot of consultants, and we're on the government side, and we're seeing a lot of technical reports that really were not
Good.
high quality.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here paying the invoices, checking off on that, and
Yeah.
you know, they weren't terrible, but this didn't meet our the standard that we would hold ourselves to as engineers and geologists. So we were kind of like, look what we're paying for these, and look at the quality. So from the beginning, we always said that's like our number one thing is quality. And then once we started hiring a few people, and our first few hires were known entities to us. They weren't like advertisements.
When was your first hire?
2016.
That was Christina Jetty, who is our COO now.
Yeah. So
Managing Charleston.
Christina's been there
year?
since. So Christina Jetty's been there since day one, since our first hire, and she's now our COO.
How did you convince someone to come on board with a 2-person company?
Well, it helps to know that person.
Okay.
And
So she was an intern at the Corps of Engineers for us.
Okay, gotcha.
And her and my wife, Catherine, were working at the same
Gotcha.
firm. So all these conversations are sort of happening, and Catherine's like, Marcus and Jeff are starting.
Well, back then we
company.
still had a pretty good reputation in the industry. So they were.
And Catherine, so I don't know if Catherine's boss at the time will ever see this, but Catherine and Christina worked for the same firm, but they ended up putting in their notice on the same day.
Oh, geez.
Come work to come work
He
for us.
was not happy with Jeff. I think he emailed or called him.
But the reason was because the decision had already been made that they were both coming over, and Catherine was going to come first. But then it was basically like they were going to take all of her work and pass it to Christina, and she had already made the decision to leave down the road. So it was actually we didn't think that was the right way to do it, because it would have been like 2 months later, she would have turned in their notice, and it would have actually been worse. So they decided to do it on the same day.
So, I mean, pretty rapidly, the two of you actually became like literally 4.
4, 5, 6. So,
Okay. So,
I mean,
yeah, 4.
I'm sure like you went through the same thing when those initial hires matter. And
But ours, I think ours was way slower because first we were way younger, and secondly we had very little connections. So it took several years to get going. But it sounds like with you guys, because you already a lot more established, a lot more experience.
I think we
had all the connections.
Yeah.
and
We
kinda
did have a
pulled it-
lot of connections to companies. So that's the third piece of so quality, and then the people are huge. I mean, the people.
So what was the holdup? I mean,
in
you
our
guys had
industry.
everything all lined up,
then-
Marcus.
well, looking back, it sounds it, but
Yeah.
man, when you're there, ready to like, you can't see the future. You got that little side of your brain like, what if it doesn't
Yeah.
work out?
I know. I don't blame you. I have the same little person talking to me all the time. I mean, it's not as much anymore for sure, but it's hard. I think it's human nature to always have like a safety net, like, some outlet in case something goes wrong, and
I think we're definitely very fortunate to have these initial hires that
right.
are very like they stayed with us. And
Scott Bailey, who
just
retired. So
That's wonderful.
he was a big part of
So
our
it was all
growth,
about
too.
initially talking to those employees, like potential employees, because they do have a stable job. Like Christina, for example, she was still very young, but what we were able to sell, I guess, was vision, and we definitely raised her ceiling and opportunity. Like we wanted people that would want to go high as possible, not. So we're like this. You chart your own path here. Like ceiling's very high for you. So like as a small business, like two man business.
We didn't even do timesheets back then. Like we didn't know kind of what we were
I've
doing.
been there. We've been there. No.
And then
With three
with
people.
Scott, who was a second full-time hire, I think, similar thing. Like, hey, give you more freedom to do stuff. Like kind of giving them more flexibility and make them feel like they're part of the like building something and growing something. So then the jobs come, then there's a need for this and that, and talking to team members and opportunities. Yeah, we got stuck in this kind of catch-22 situation where, yeah, you guys, we know you guys, you do good work, but you have 4 people. How are you going to execute this
And
work?
what's your response?
We're going to invest in people. Like, we're going to hire good people, invest in people, and then we can actually have some resources to execute. So went through an investment year where we hired, 2 or 3 more people, the people that we were kind of targeting and knew that they will be a good fit and they'll do good work. And then from there, we're able to get more projects. Then we need more people. You go into that
Right.
cycle. We started that cycle where we initially we didn't want to react to the job. Like, we get the job and then like trying to scramble to hire people. We wanted to get the good solid base of technical and project managers, and then get the job, do it well, and then get more. But yes, once you get into the cycle and you do good work, it happens pretty quick.
I think the third is quality and the internal people, but I think the partners and your industry partners are huge for growth. And for us, it kind of we had a nice steady growth, and then somewhere around, I don't know, it's probably about 5 years ago, it just kind of went. We're going from 20 people to 40, and then from 40 to 60, and now over 70. And a big part of that is the
partnership.
The partnerships, and they recognize the quality. They know that if they work with us, there's going to be quality, and they know we have good people, and they want to work with us.
Can we stay on that for a little bit? We have a JV that we have established.
Well, we've had mentor-protege.
Mentor-protege. Talk a little bit about that. How does that impact your company, your growth, and anything else?
Yeah. It started on the 8A program. And part of that 8A program allow you to apply for mentor-protege, where you can select a mentor who can be a large business. Doesn't have to be a large business. It can be a small business, but bigger than you. Someone who can help you grow your business, introduce new clients, give you more resources on the business side and like project execution side. And you get 2. Like, as a small business in the program, you only get 2 mentors. So right away, we're talking with you and Mark, and like,
and we were a small company at the time.
you were about 50 then, I think, when we started talking, 50, 60 employees, and you guys are doing very well with GSA and you guys are also growing very rapidly. And you've gone through your 8A, all that. So you were 10, 15 years ahead of us on the kind of,
on that trajectory,
yeah.
Right.
So we applied with Procon being our mentor, and we got accepted. And I think that gives you a total of 6 years, like 3-year cycles. So within the 6 years, you can form a joint venture between your mentor and a project company, and that joint venture will be recognized as a small business 8A entity. So that opened the doors for us with GSA and small business opportunities, and that's how we ended up with getting in with GSA Region 3 and
some of the PMIS, some of the CM work that you guys are.
Yep.
Yeah, and I would say that's we're still steadily growing in environmental and geotech, but the construction management and the PMIS, construction technology or PMIS, is probably our most rapidly growing part of our business.
So, like, we didn't go into this mentor protege and JV just trying to get work and make money. We really, as a small company, we really wanted to get a mentor that can mentor us in a true form of mentorship on the business side. And so, calling you guys a lot about all the HR stuff and administrative stuff and growth and, proposals and what opportunities we should look at. And it's been very successful. And I think that's over and all the joint ventures are done, but we still work together on multiple projects and team up.
So I've seen the mentor protege programs not being implemented well, and I've seen others implemented well.
Yeah.
And so, like, what would you say were the things that worked, and what are some things that you might have done differently?
Yeah, you hear a lot of there's a lot of cases, and you hear a lot of stories about bad mentor proteges, and I think going back to what Marcus said, I think we could have gone with some larger AE firms that would have maybe been interested in doing a mentor protege with us, but we wanted it was about the people, so knowing you guys, seeing what y'all did from, starting very small to up to whatever you were at the time, like 50 or 60 people, and knowing that the CM and construction technology, we wanted that to be part of our business,
Right.
And on the other side, we had another mentor that was more in the environmental space. Same thing with them. They were a
The mid-sized
300
company,
person company at the time or something, but not thousands of people. And I think having direct access to the owners of the company, which we had with both of our mentors, was huge because when we needed something, we could go directly to you guys or say, who should we talk to?
Right.
Within that mentor.
It cost you a little bit, like a round of golf maybe or something
Yeah,
like
I mean,
that.
I wasn't
Yeah, but you
seeing,
keep losing, so it didn't really
but,
cost me any money.
But
No, in
that
all
was, for
seriousness.
me, the way we do things. Like, honestly, we could have maybe gone with some other firms that revenue-wise may have driven
Right.
revenue up faster, because of their big contracts that they have and stuff. And a lot of firms do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it just wasn't, what we wanted for the trajectory of our company.
The other A&E firms that you
Yeah.
did the partnership, how did that turn out?
I think that really it's how you look at the program. Like, what do you want to get out of it? So, like, success, when you look at it as a success, is like, did you get what you want? So you have to pick your mentor right. Like, also have the same and right expectations going into it, because where we see the program not working is when they don't see an eye to eye. And I think also what made the program successful for us, like, we're very selective on picking who we want to join the program with. And also, Jeff and I had a very good understanding as a very small business how the federal market worked and the contracts. I feel like we were a little farther along as far as
Yeah, because you guys were in that space.
correct.
We knew how
You
the
had such,
inside
you had such a
worked.
larger advantage than someone like
we had
us.
a different
Yeah.
I guess perspective on things.
Yeah.
So we had our own expectations, which matched up with what you guys were offering and willing to do, and I think that's largely what made the program successful for us. And
Yeah.
I do like that concept of providing that to small companies. And the whole SBA 8A program was not to make a small business. The intent is to make that small business sustainable, grow, give them opportunity to grow and sustainable, not
Not to take you.
yeah. So you have to
Right.
do the work. They'll give you opportunity to do it.
Yeah, and I think the ones that fail are when the problems are when it becomes all about the money, because the money, obviously you need to make money to grow as a company,
Right,
but
right.
some that you hear about, they go into it and looking at as just a windfall of
Right.
getting contracts and money. And for us,
You
we
want to
always,
lead with services.
we want to
quality of
self-perform the work.
Don't get me
too.
wrong. There are a lot of good mentor protege companies that are successful in making a lot of money, and
Yeah.
it just was. It wasn't us.
It's
Like,
not-
we're again,
yeah,
like we're.
I can't
think
see
we
you
also got
guys.
into it very early. Like
Mm-hmm.
when I was talking with SBA Rap, he was very surprised that we already had 2 mentors. Like some companies in the program will wait till like the latter half of the program, like get established a little more and then get into it. We went into it right away.
Yeah.
So
Which, maybe that was one thing we would maybe wait a little bit longer.
Wait a little longer.
If we were to do it
spread
over
out a
again.
little bit longer, but
Okay.
again, it was a really good program for us.
Can we talk a little bit about the 8A program? I know that you guys are just graduating.
Today.
Today.
Today is the
today is
graduation day.
Yes. And I know the type of company you have built. You've built it on the backs of the quality of work that you focus on, the quality of people that you bring, and the vision that you have for the company. And so the question that I want to know is that what's next for you guys? What does the next 5 years going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, I could tee it up for you.
Go ahead.
So
tee it
go
up.
for it.
So, yes, we got accepted into an A program, and because of it's typically a 9-year program, development program. Like I said, it's supposed to develop the company, not build the company. So, it's a 9-year program, but because of COVID, we got extra years, so we're in it for 10 years. In the beginning, it helped us open doors and opportunities because that allows the federal government to give you sole source contracts up to set amount of dollar. But again, it's kind of one of those things like when you have 4 people, like you go to the government, like, hey, we can do this. Let's talk about sole source. I'm like, well, you only have 4 people. How are you going to execute? So
Right.
I think, we knew that going into it. We didn't expect, okay, I'm in 8A program. I'm going to start making things happen, get millions of contracts. It took us 2, 3, like for us initial 3 years of phase of the program, it's a very slow roll, like talking to a lot of people, like telling them like, yeah, this is our capabilities. And during that time, we're also building our own portfolio by working as a subcontractor to other companies. And so we're doing that. And think about years 4 through 6, that's when we started seeing a lot more opportunities, a couple of sole source opportunities, also winning a competitive 8A set-asides and small business set-asides, teaming up with companies like Procon. So I think middle of that program, it started gaining traction and kind of matches up with our company growth. Like we're having to get more people, getting more projects. It was part of our company's growth, what 8A was. As far as the revenue goes, it was always less than half of our annual revenue.
Right.
On average, towards the end of the program, it was around 30% of our revenue came from 8A contracts. So we pivoted while we're in the program, which I think that's what the program wants you to do. There is a requirement. Over time, your 8A revenue needs to go down to a certain percentage. So we never had issues with that.
So that was intentional. That was part of the strategy as you knew that the timeline was coming and you needed to slingshot.
It was always just a tool for us.
We wanted to be sustainable and make sure that we can pivot, gradually get out of it.
Yeah, one of my biggest kind of pet peeves is when people say, employees of ours, when they're marketing and they say, go to a potential client and say, we're an 8A company. And
yeah, we had that conversation last night about that.
And I always tell our people, no, you tell them who we are,
and
what we do, why we're good at it,
and what contract
and
vehicles
why we will deliver quality work. You get into that conversation, and then at the end of it, you could say, oh, by the way, if you want to work with us, we're in the 8A program. But we never wanted that to be our identity, which I think is going to help as we, go through the next 5 years, and we're getting a lot more competitive in the general small business market, so we can win small business.
So there's less dependence on
we
that.
were never going to be heavily dependent on it, and like Jeff said, we're just a tool in the toolbox that
was available, and
that there are a handful of 8A sole source contracts that really helped us get bigger and develop more as a company. So I absolutely helped us significantly, but we're not going to do anything too differently than what we've been doing. Still work with other small businesses.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are considered, you're a large business now, right? So I think working with our large business partners, because it's going to be a huge part of that. But the last 10 years, we've established, a trust of respect for the work we do. So when they go after large opportunities, whether it's engineering or you guys with construction management, we're going to bring our quality and deliver quality products. So that's going to help. So more and more, the partnerships, again, are going to be huge. Of course, we're still going to prime a lot of work, but that's going to be a big part of it, too.
And down the road, I'd like to do kind of give it back and get into the mentor-protege program with the right mindset.
Another firm.
Yeah. We just got to focus on the vision.
Right.
And
There's
growth.
a transition that you're going through around your size right now where you're working in the business and you really need to start working on the business. And so it's not going to be sustainable when you get to 200, Yeah. So how do you get from here to 200? Well, somehow you have to be like the tadpole going in, becoming a frog. You have to slowly evolve through that process, and that I don't have the special sauce, but you have to do it.
Yeah,
that's at least that. That's number
like
one.
you said last night too. It just takes time. Like
it takes time.
It's not going to happen overnight because, again, it needs to be very the transition has to be very like defined and like because you don't want to like, hey, you start taking this over, I'm out.
Right, right.
Like
Slow.
if you don't let that person like set that person up for success, and it's gotta be very you gotta have a good plan, transition plan.
Be intentional.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I think a couple years ago, up until a year or two ago, I could probably, off the top of my head, name every employee that we had. I'm not sure I could do that anymore. Maybe Marcus. Do we have time for Marcus to try to name every employee that we have?
Maybe.
We'll do that at the end.
Maybe at lunch.
But that's also a challenge for me because I'm so, I still go back to when we were like 20, 30 people, you know, and there was very much more familial type atmosphere, and we want to maintain that as part of your culture. But it certainly becomes a lot harder when you triple in
let me
size.
ask you this though, because talking about culture, you think?
Hey, I'm the one that's interviewing. I'll let you ask the question.
Flip the
Go ahead.
tables on me. That's
Give me the
nice.
key card.
There's nothing on the back of this, so go ahead, ask your question.
So you think when you guys went from 25 years ago, when it was 2, 3, 5 person, like you obviously had this vision and
For the podcast?
For the podcast, yes.
you just woke up with an idea. The
No.
culture though, like you had this you set a certain set of culture that
I
you want
wasn't
your
that
company
smart to
be.
think of the future to that extent.
You think it just happened organically? That
No,
like
I thought of the next thing. You know, like if you've played any sports, you know, you don't talk about the championships and you talk about the next game.
right, but you want to have what you. So I don't think Jeff and I actually sat down like I want our culture to be X, Y, Z. We just.
I tried, but you wouldn't listen to me.
I mean, like we joked about like we just show up. We're very casual. Like Jeff and I are very casual, and that's how we want our employees to be. That's how we want our culture to be. But
You didn't ask any question, but I'm going to answer the
no,
question
like
that I think you're going to ask me.
when you're growing, like you think that what you established as your culture when you were a 20-person company, like translated to when you're 100, 200, did you run into struggle like trying to maintain that
Absolutely.
culture?
So the book that I read, and I put a plug in, Traction by Gino Wickman, has a section about culture. And in fact, the first section has to do with missions, you know, values, corporate values. That being so critical. When you are 40 people, 30 people, 20 maybe, I don't think you need as rigid of a process to build that in because people see you. You have a relationship. And so when you get bigger, you do need to not leave it up to chance.
Yeah, and I
So
think
you
we're
have
in the throes of realizing that,
You
like
can't
right
leave
now.
it up to chance. And so you have to actually embed the core values, which is really the DNA of your culture, into every aspect of your company. And I'm not saying we have it perfect. And I do think part of the answer to your question is like some of that culture does get diminished and you have to evolve. There's some things that you'll have to give up, but other things that you'll be able to insert because you have more resources to do. You'll just have to evolve and change.
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, when we were having our quarterly meetings, one of the things that we were told that we need to do was just that. We have to define our core values. So we came up with 5, and we actually, we were still about 50 employees then, so we still sent out a survey. Like these are we generated list, and then we let the employees like, okay, out of these 10, whatever, like what are the values that are important to you? So we kind of polled employees, and we ended up with 5. And so now we have a written core values for our company, and then
I think that's amazing. And I think that the fact that your core values is largely defined by the core 40 people that you got the survey from, that should be memorialized in the history of Hana.
They picked it, so they can't complain about it.
But no, the fact that this is the identity of your company. Now you're putting a mark in the timeline, so that when they look through the annals of Hana, they see that there were these group of people that came together and they wanted to ensure that this culture that they absolutely love and enjoy does not get diminished over time. So we're settling on this, and it's memorialized. And so I think that's a beautiful
so
story.
that is
It's
my
very
concern.
important, especially in the work we do with the field operations that we do, the drilling and the site investigations. Like, we send guys and girls to very far away places where they're working 12-hour days, sometimes 10-day shifts, and they might be away from their homes for, a couple months in some cases. Now, obviously, we make sure they know what they're signing up for before we hire them, but that is a lot on people. So you got to add something in the mix to make that rewarding enough for them to want to keep doing that,
As you guys are telling me your vision, how do you guys operate in decision making? What is that dynamic like? I don't think I've ever seen you get into any arguments.
There's been a few.
How do you handle
not
that?
many.
But you guys seem to be mostly aligned, which is great because, sometimes 1 + 1 is like 5 if you have the right partner. So tell me about that dynamic between the two of you in your decision
I
making.
feel like we're in a marriage counseling right
Yeah,
now.
we're here. I'm good at that.
This better not end up in a hug. If this ends up in a hug, I'm not going to be
Between
happy.
you two? I'm not hugging you.
Well, I
so-
mean, that's what I'm saying. But anyway.
Well, you can go first.
Why don't you start first? Like, how much do you value Marcus
hear
and what
this.
he brings to the table?
I don't know
and,
if I should be serious or okay. So I'll be serious.
Yes, of course, I want you to be
Believe me.
serious.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
well, I mean, we have fun at work. We try to engage with the people that are in the office and all have fun. And I think that's a big part. We joke around and stuff. And sometimes I'll have to be like, no, Marcus, I'll say something and I'll be like, no, I'm serious. Because we
I
joke
was like,
around.
oh man, I have
so
to make a decision
we
now.
joke
It's
around
being
so much,
serious.
and then it will be like, no, I'm serious. We need to talk about this.
Yeah.
So we'll stop the joking and go in and have a serious conversation. It's definitely a lot different than what it was at the beginning, but I do think we're very like-minded in a lot of things, and a lot of times there's just like anything in work, it's communication, right? I think I'm a big fan of getting on calls, right? Probably more so than anybody else in like the senior level. Whenever I see like emails and Teams messages flying around that's
Things
kind
get
of
lost.
heating up or
Yes.
whatever, and
I can see
people
that.
getting upset, I'm like, and you do it too, but I'm always like, let's have a call.
Yeah.
Like, we call them hot washes, right? So let's have a hot wash.
I totally agree.
We need to talk about this. And we'll, like, a lot of times we'll stop what we're doing, like, in the middle of the day, and we're all busy, but we'll just have, like, a 15-minute conversation. And it might be me, Marcus, and Christina, or it might be other people involved. But I think, to me, the number one thing is just that trusting that you're coming from the same place, but you're probably just miscommunicating.
Right.
And having those conversations when they really need to happen.
I think that's essential, making sure that you're on the same sheet of music and being in alignment. But tell me more on the aspect, and I'll ask you, Marcus, like, how does having a partner in your organization make your firm, Hana, better?
I think the fact that gives me a little more comfort, I guess, having someone with you, right? Like, if I were to take this on all by myself, it's a heavy task. And I really respect those business owners who started by themselves and one-man company, make it successful. I mean, I can't imagine having gone through what we've gone through as a two.
Yeah, it's nice to have that.
Just having the ability to like bounce off ideas and have the discussions. So that's very helpful to have a partner that they'll align with you. So like Jeff said, I think him and I are very much alike.
Mm-hmm.
We share the same goals and visions, and we're both laid back.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like he's a little more risk taker than I am. So that's the point where we have those back and forth in conversations. And at the end of the day, we end up where we need to end up because we both want to make decisions that are going to be good for the company and our employees.
And then a lot of times Christina will tell us what the right decision is.
That you
So
have a third person,
what I was
right.
gonna say was like where Jeff and I excel, like where we excel, we are very much alike. We're more like big picture guy, like where I fall short, he also falls short. So like we're, not very detailed guys, and so having someone like Christina who's kind of in between, I know it really frustrates her many, many times when
This is an opportunity where you can apologize in public. Just say,
Sorry,
I'm so
Christina.
sorry.
for, she was a lot of times she'll be like frustrated because she's got to deal with us too. But yeah, I think it definitely our dynamics I feel like changed since we started. When we started, it was just I think him and I were very much in like every step of the way. We're smaller scale, less decisions to make. But as things got bigger, I'm focusing on part of the company. Jeff's focused on this part of the company. Christina is trying to round everything up. So yeah, there are like disagreements, a lot of questions. Do we want to do this and that? And kind of lesson learned from a couple of years ago, Jeff and I would make a decision without really getting others involved, but not having to not thinking through all the implications in our heads, oh yeah, it's gonna be great, what a neat idea, what a great opportunity. We say yes to this. When it comes to executing now, becomes everybody else's problem, and it's so we learn from that. So we're trying to communicate better and get more involved in the decision making. So I don't think very few, if any, that Jeff and I make decisions ourselves anymore. It's more
Committee.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have someone that that you can trust, that you have similar values and you're mostly in alignment with.
Yeah, I mean,
that's great.
you guys have been friends for a long time. I've known Jeff since 2008, 2009. So
Yeah, but I have a similar situation even with Mark. I don't ever get into a situation where we're not in alignment. I mean, we're 99% of the time we're in alignment.
Yeah, because
So
we
that
get
makes-
there.
yeah.
We get there.
Yeah.
We might start off
Right.
from two opposite ends, and by the time we talk it through,
I
then
think that's essential to a partnership. Otherwise, I don't see how anyone could operate that way. Well, I feel like we can talk forever, but I'll just have a few questions to ask before we close up. So I'll ask you, Marcus, what are you most excited about? Our industry, our future, just anything.
As far as the work goes, with the industry and the company, I'm very excited about the growth. Looking back, it's gone fast, and I'm sure you do the same thing. It just happened. Everything happens fast, and all of a sudden, you're up to this many people. And every time I see the things that our employees did and the projects we're working on, I'm like, I feel like you're essentially a parent to the company, right? So very proud moment of employees in the company. So yeah, I'm just still very excited about the growth and the work we do and the things our employees do. I just really
Where
want
do you
to
see yourself headed, in 3 to 5 years?
I don't know. I'm torn. The part of me wants me to let's grow. Let's get as big as we want and just take over the world. And part of me is where's that sweet spot that will be successful and still grow, but at what pace? Because I think both have benefits and both will present challenges. So yeah, it depends on the day. Some days I'm I just want to just be where I am and let's just see what we do. And some days when we're keep getting these opportunities, I'm man, I want to just take this thing and just
Run with it.
So it's hard to say. But at the end of the day, I think what we need to focus on is, like we talked about earlier, empowering our employees. Make it sustainable company, self-sufficient, self-running company that we I think our job is to provide for our employees, set them up for success. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, with you, Jeff, I want to ask you, what are you most proud of in your tenure with Hana and what you've done? Any exciting projects, any exciting events, or anything like that?
Man, that's a tough one.
It could be several things that you can
Yeah,
just point
I
out.
mean,
But you gotta pick one.
project-wise,
Pick one.
I gotta pick one. I won't. I think one of the things we've really taken on for a small business, some really highly complex projects, engineering wise. We have some super smart PhD level people that have been able to come in and are sought after by our clients, right? So we know that some of the projects we have are directly correlated to this person's expertise. So I'm proud of the projects, that they've been able to execute. Things like Arlington National Cemetery Southern expansion, definitely just for what it is and what it stands for. Proud of that kind of project. And then also some of our complex waterfront projects. Those are very complex things to design and build. And it's really cool to be able to, say that we worked on those projects. But I think I'm most proud of assembling the people we have.
Right.
I think having a small business and going back to some of the key personnel that we have and having them have enough trust in me and Marcus and Christina and others to come work for us, and sometimes take less money to work for us when they could work. The sky's the limit. I mean, they could go work for any engineering firm they want, but they chose to work for us. So I think that's what I'm most proud of, is the people that we've gathered, and that want to work for us and be part of our team.
Did you ever imagine, could you have ever imagined that you would be working on the projects you just described when you were?
No, not really. Not really. We do things that some projects that I didn't,
Just like
never would
scratching
have thought I
yourself.
would have worked, because I can't do these things that these people can do, whether it's groundwater. We do a lot of complex groundwater investigation and remediation work, and I know enough to be dangerous, but without these experts, we could really never execute those kinds of projects. And that goes for a lot of different, disciplines, whether it's toxicology, groundwater, the geotech stuff that these guys do, pretty complicated stuff. So I think we try to say we're, we have the qualifications of a large AE firm, but with a small business culture. So we really can do a lot of the things that the big firms can do just as well. We can't do the volume that they do, but like on an individual project basis, I think that our people are able to they're up there with anybody, that's out there. So it's pretty cool.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing. Marcus, I want to give the two of you sort of last remarks, thoughts, comments that you want to share. So I'll start with you, Marcus.
Yeah, again, thanks for having us. I really think this is a pretty neat thing that you got going on. Again, I'm very excited about where we're headed. Very happy that, this whole, I think it's, our industry, it's a lot about relationships and networking and just the connections we have, just you guys, the friendship from the kids. Like, it's a neat story, and it's a very successful story. I think these things need to be talked about more. And, it's business, but, we got to have fun too. And you have to appreciate the people that that you've known for a long time, your friends, coworkers, and family. So, and I haven't really spent this kind of time like looking back on what we've done until today. So that was pretty neat. So,
Well, good.
yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. You actually provoked a lot of thought in my head about things that we need to work on, not just on the podcast, but from our conversations earlier.
Good. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, it was
fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks.
yeah.
Thanks for having me, buddy. Yeah.
next time you
Yeah.
come back, I'll make sure I'll bring a skateboard because I don't know if you can still ollie.
Yeah, when Q moved to our neighborhood in 7th grade, there was like these like rumblings, like people were talking like, there's some new kid. I think his name is a letter. It's like it just goes by Q, and he's really good at skating. And his brother rides BMX.
Is it
So it's been
video
a long
of that?
time.
Picture at least?
This was pre any
No, there's a-
technology.
There's
Yeah.
got to be a picture.
Yeah,
I'll
there
show you
was-
my picture of my long hair.
We
if you
didn't.
bring in
There
your,
were no cell phones or anything.
Well, I'm trying to button
So-
up our conversation, but
But not until